All right, Bill, go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen and commissioners, and welcome to the Haverford Township Board of Commissioners regular meeting for April. This is our first electronic meeting during the pandemic crisis. I'd ask Mr. Berman if you would please call the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio.
He's there.
Here. Mr. Oliva.
Here.
Mr. McCluskey.
Here.
Mr. Siegel.
Here.
Mr. Lewis.
Here.
Mr. Quinn.
Here.
Dr. Hart.
Here.
Mr. Holmes. Mr. Wexler.
Here. I'd ask all to please join our Chief of Police in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America.
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chief. Our first item is the citizens forum. We do have 4 comments that came in. I'll read the first one from Senator Dalen Leach. Comment that he wanted to put out in the public forum that I just wanted to update everybody on a few issues my office has been working on. We've been finding supplies of masks and hand sanitizers and delivering them to first responders and others who are in need. We will continue to do so as long as shortages exist. And if anyone needs anything, please contact my office at 610-768-4200 or email me at senatorleach@pasenate.com, and we will do our best to get it to you. We've also been working with the administration to reduce exposure where we can. We successfully argued for a suspension of regulations requiring that medical marijuana sales occur only in dispensaries. We now have curbside sales consistent with social distancing recommendations. We've urged the administration to release more nonviolent prisoners and those in jail simply for failure to make bail so as to prevent the massive spread of coronavirus in correctional facilities, something we've unfortunately seen happen in other states. Finally, we've been urging the state to declare the primary election originally scheduled for April 28th and now moved to June 2nd to be all mail-in balloting. I don't believe we'll be able to safely gather by June 2nd, and we want to avoid the risky situation we saw in Wisconsin last week. I recently published a coronavirus resource guide on my website. The website address is www.senatorleach.com/coronavirus resource guide. From there, you can find helpful information for employees, resources for small businesses, updates on mitigation efforts, program updates on Pennsylvania's medical marijuana program, food access information, online educational resources, and frequently asked questions. We also have links to certain DOH resources, Department of Health resources, that is, available, and we were able to incorporate a set that constituents can use to find relevant state forms and applications. I want to thank the Board of Commissioners and everybody who has worked so hard under such difficult circumstances. Please email me at senatorleach@pasenate.com or call my office if my office can be of any assistance. Stay safe, and we'll all get this through together. Dalen Leach, Pennsylvania Senator. Sent on behalf of him by Judy Trombetta, his Chief of Staff. Our second registered speaker was a gentleman named Thomas Schiffer. He's looking to see if there's been any more consideration to making more streets on one-side parking. It is increasingly more difficult to drive through the township, is his comment. Our next external source in response to public comment was from Maureen Wynn. She's asking a lot of questions about the pandemic. Her biggest concern was the lack of specific information, and we had. Her questions were, can you provide some information on the following? If not, please provide a point of contact I can contact for responses. First one, why was the COVID data changed to reflect COVID percentages of township populations instead of publishing raw COVID numbers? Second, what is the meaning of location pending investigation? Why does the number keep increasing? Are these cases attributable to townships or municipalities within Delaware County? And are the township's numbers and percentages understated as a result? Dave did provide a good response to her, and we'll talk about that after the end of the public comment. The last one is from David McElwain, township resident of 63 years, and he's from the 7th Ward. So now everyone is home due to the COVID quarantine. We all stay responsible and work at home and around the yard. With all this time for additional yard work comes lots of brush and other similar types of yard waste. You know where I'm headed with this question. Why, for any reason, would you suspend, curtail yard waste pickup during a time when everyone must stay home and therefore have the opportunity to do more yard work? I have piles of brush and trash cans full of yard waste with nowhere to put it. So then I had a bright idea. I'll simply put it in the back of my truck and I'll take it to the township yard and place it in their existing brush pile. In other words, even though I'm paying for this service with my township taxes, I guess I'll take it over myself and save them the trouble of picking it up at my house. Good idea. No, because the yard is gated and locked. You guys and gals are smart enough to figure out how to bring the employees into proper COVID protocols to collect brush, I would hope. Please do so, or at least give responsible township residents a way to get rid of this waste themselves. Thank you. My new ward leader is Connor Quinn of the 7th Ward. Please direct this email to him for response during the next virtual meeting. I will be watching for someone to address this issue. Dave, I think that's the extent of the registered comments. Did you get any more?
I think that was the bulk of what I sent for the ones that have sent them to the email address that was published online, but we'll check for more.
Dave, would you address, or either you or Dan address the elimination of the yard waste pickup? We'll get that out of the way.
Yeah, we can do that. I'd prepared a little bit of a report on the services that we continue to offer, and really the first thing I want to do is thank Dan Mariani for all of his efforts and his commitment. He's managing a huge department with many employees, and I know that Dan is losing sleep every night because he's concerned for the safety of the folks who work here. Each morning when the folks come in, we're checking their temperature at the gate to make sure that they're all healthy enough and not showing any symptoms of COVID-19. And so one of the things that we've done to try to limit the exposure of these employees to COVID-19 is, as you know, suspend the brush collection. We are providing essential critical infrastructure services only. That means we're providing sanitation and emergency call-out services for storms like we had today. Our twice-a-week trash and once-a-week recycling schedule remains unchanged, but in an effort to protect our employees and help slow the spread of COVID-19, we have suspended our weekly brush collection. We're doing some research to find out if there's a place that we can bring the brush, perhaps if we're able to get back to normal operations, but we're not even sure that the facility where we take our brush normally is open for business at this time. We continue to provide a number of services, including the trash twice a week, the recycling twice a week. We are providing residential bulk collection services on Wednesdays, and we ask folks to register for that online between the hours of 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. We are collecting latex paints as we do on the normal trash days, and folks can call the township phone number 610-446-1000, extension 2264, before your regular collection day to schedule a pickup. So those are the services that we are currently providing in Public Works. I do want to report that sadly I've been informed late last week one of our employees did test positive for COVID-19. An employee who's worked here for the township for over 30 years. And we know that that employee is not doing well at all. So at this point, we ask you to keep that employee in your thoughts and prayers. To give some peace of mind to other employees, I want to note that the employee that I mentioned has not been in direct contact with any other employees for more than 3 weeks. So our confidence is high that no other employees have contracted COVID-19 through direct contact. That said, we have been and will continue to follow all appropriate protocols as if we have all been exposed, and we are doing that daily. So this is why we are changing the way we do business. We're concerned about each other. It's critical that we protect our employees as we would protect our own family. And so this is why we are taking the actions that we have. That's what I have for you, Bill.
Mr. President, can I ask a question of Dave? Dave, so what you said early in your comments was that basically, even if we wanted to pick up yard waste, we have no place to take it. Is that in fact true?
We are checking to see if the facility is open. I don't know if Dan Mariani has been able to reach them. Dan's on the call, so if Dan, you know, if you've had contact with those folks yet, we're willing to listen, but to my knowledge, we haven't had that contact yet.
Dan, do you have an answer? Or...
Yeah, I'm here. When we called them last week, Andy, excuse me. When we called them last week, they were only open a couple days a week. They weren't going to be open 5 days a week, which limits our time. And they're up in Chester County, so it's not that easy to get to. It's about a 45-minute ride. We're going to reach out to them tomorrow and see if they're going to be open 5 days a week, and if it's going to make sense to and be able for us to bring it up to them, then we'll reevaluate and see what we're going to do. Me and Dave spoke today with Bobby Steelman, the sanitation department, and if we can get it picked up, you know, we'll try to come up with a better solution. But the way it stands right now, I think we just have everybody putting it in the trash.
You know, that's not the ideal solution, obviously, and I obviously want to respect the employees and their safety.
Mm-hmm.
Just wondering if we could go to twice a month, or something like that, kind of a pickup rather than every week at a minimum, some kind of scaled back program at least.
Yeah, I mean, Dave and I spoke about this morning, maybe doing it ward by ward, which we're trying to put in stuff. Or Dave?
Or like the leaves are, like when we collect the leaves.
Yeah, we were trying to come up with a game plan, maybe doing it like a couple wards a week. But at the same time, I only have 4 or 5 extra trucks that can pick up the brush to get it back to the yard, because we pick it up in the trash trucks. And the place where we bring it, it's kind of a weird setup, but we can't have it in any of the bags. So basically what the throwers do is they tear the bags open, they dump the brush into the back of the truck, and then the bags get recycled. That's what delays everything. And only having 4 or 5 extra trucks to take care of it, you know, that's where my problems come.
President?
Go ahead, Mr. Holmes.
Mr. President, there's no question, before we did brush collection, this stuff went in the trash. These are unusual times. I appreciate that it's great to get sell the brush or get it to some other place, but what our guys are going through already, we don't need to do that just so people can put the yard waste somewhere else, as opposed to just put it next to the trash can and have it go out on Tuesdays and Thursdays or Wednesdays and Fridays.
And I agree. That's during a time of crisis. That's going to be looks like it's going to be the solution for the short term.
I mean, I assume, Dan, there hasn't been any issues, and if there are, they'll get fixed. That, you know, brush is getting picked up if it's out with the trash, right?
Yeah. Most guys will pick it up and put it in the truck on a regular trash pickup.
Yeah.
We should just tell our residents, our constituents, that just to count on putting their brush yard waste out with the trash on Tuesday and Thursday until further notice.
That's correct.
Okay. I would urge you to do whatever you can to try to get it reinstated, as soon as possible. But under the circumstances, it's certainly understandable. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll get it back up. Once I find out what the schedule is up at Victory Gardens where we bring it, we'll have a better idea of what we can do.
Okay, thanks, Dan and Dave.
All right, and just let us know what your decision is, Dave and Dan. Thank you. The only thing we didn't address is probably more is the parking. The gentleman that brought up the parking on one side of the streets. I'm going to leave that. John, I'm going to throw that to you again. We've talked about that maybe 8, 12 months ago. Certain neighborhoods, you can't get a fire truck or an ambulance down there at night.
Correct.
I mean, I think it's, if you guys could start taking a hard, not during the epidemic here, or pandemic, but we got to look at it down the road. Maybe the Bureau of Fire and the police department can come to some resolution as to what areas where we think it's absolutely necessary, at least as a minimum requirement on certain streets, and then do it in conjunction with each of the wards.
Yeah, we've looked at it a number of times, and, we're in both hats for fire department also. It is a problem getting down to some streets, sometimes impossible. As soon as this calms down, we're going to start working on the no parking here at corners with the yellow paint, try and open it up a little bit, but it's something that I guess we'll have to sit down with the commissioners and really come up with a plan, because
Right.
people are so used to parking, some people don't have driveways, that it's something we'll really have to work on and get the message out before we do anything. But it is a problem that has to be addressed.
I agree. That's one of the issues you're going to have to work with each of us, because it does affect each ward differently, and
Yes.
keep it passionate, I'm sure. So.
Yes.
Mr. President, it certainly affects all wards, including mine, because it's very tight in Westgate Hills.
Right.
So I'm wondering if the police committee, John, when this all calms down, can get together with you and whomever and discuss this further.
Certainly, we're always available, Steve.
Yeah, I think it's the police and the Bureau of Fire probably need to get together.
Mr.
Great.
President,
Mr. Holmes.
just if I could ask Chief Viola. Chief, are the issues streets where even in the middle of the street, it's impossible for the truck to get down, or is the bigger problem the crowding at the intersections and making the
Well,
turn?
the crowding at the intersections is the biggest problem, but even now with bigger vehicles, SUVs and pickup trucks, sometimes we just kind of bounce off of cars going down the street. So it's really difficult. It slows down response tremendously because you're trying to squeeze through, and then you're flipping mirrors and everything else. So it is a problem.
I can tell you firsthand a number of mirrors have been taken off cars.
Yes.
The trucks barely make it up the street. Sometimes they have to slow down so much and they have to be guided. And that's what slows down response.
Correct.
That concludes the registered speakers. I guess we've opened up an email address. If Dave gets any emails on the info@havetownship.org, he'll send them to me. He can flag that he's got a question or something. But as of right now, it doesn't look like we have any. Item number 3 on the agenda is resolution number 2177-2020. I think for ease of use, I'll read these, and whichever commissioner wants to make the motion tonight can do that. But this way we don't have Dave use his mouse and mute everybody else at the same time. So this is a motion to adopt resolution 2177-2020. Commissioners of the Township of Haverford pursuant to the provision.
Bill, hold on 1 second.
I see everybody's unmuted now.
Yeah, I don't know. It's getting a little crazy here. It's slow to respond on this end. So go ahead. If everybody could just keep quiet, that'd be helpful.
I'm showing everybody's muted, but okay. So this is to adopt resolution 2177-2020. The Commissioners of the Township of Haverford pursuant to the provisions of section 7501 of Pennsylvania Emergency Management Services Code as amended, do hereby ratify the declaration of a disaster emergency in the Township of Haverford, County of Delaware, commencing March 6, 2020. And further, we ratify all actions taken by the Township Manager and Emergency Management Coordinator of the Township of Haverford in response to COVID-19. And further, we direct the Township Manager and Emergency Management Coordinator to continue coordinating the emergency response and to take all necessary and appropriate actions to alleviate the effects of COVID-19 on the residents of the Township of Haverford, including but not limited to the rental of equipment, the purchase of supplies and materials, the temporary modification of work schedules and sick leave policies, and the execution of contracts and agreements for the provision of township services, all without regard to those time-consuming procedures and formalities normally prescribed by law, mandatory constitutional requirements accepted. And further, this declaration of disaster emergency shall continue until further action is taken by the Board of Commissioners to declare the end of such disaster emergency.
So moved.
So moved by,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner D'Amelio. Was it, Mr. Holmes, was that you or?
Yes.
Commissioner? Any questions on that? This is kind of a housekeeping, but we need to do this for the state and the county. Dave, would you please call the roll?
Mr. D'Amelio,
Yes.
Mr. Oliva,
Yes.
Mr. McCluskey,
Yes.
Mr. Siegel,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis. We'll come back to you. Mr. Quinn,
Yes.
Dr. Hart,
Yes.
Mr. Holmes,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis again?
He said yes. I can see his, I can read his
Unmute.
lips.
Thank you.
Muted, yeah.
I don't know.
Great, thank you very much. Item number 4 is
Andy,
the,
if you scroll down to the bottom left, unmute.
You got it. Thanks, guys.
item 4 is the approval of minutes.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead. Go ahead, Steve.
okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the regular meeting of March 9th, 2020.
Second?
Motion made by Mr. D'Amelio, seconded by Commissioner Oliva. Any additions or deletions? Please call the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio,
Seems like a long time ago, but yes.
Mr. Oliva,
Yes.
Mr. McCluskey,
Yes.
Mr. Siegel,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Quinn,
Yes.
Dr. Hart,
Yes.
Mr. Holmes,
Yes.
Mr. Wexler.
Yes. Item 5 is the Township Auditor update. I don't see him on here.
Go ahead.
You could just do 5 and 6 together if you want.
Okay,
Our township auditor has reported to us
I did get an email from him, so I know he's approved all the expenses.
by email that he has gone through all of the warrants and any questions had were the township, and they've been answered to his satisfaction. So I will move to approval of the warrants, item number 6. I move we approve warrant number 4 of 2020, totaling $4,933,066.77, comprising the general and sewer fund payroll for March 19th, 2020. Somebody actually running a cleaner? Does anybody know? Oh. General and sewer fund payroll for April 3rd, 2020 in the amount of $664,750.13. General fund disbursements number 4 of 2020 in the amount of $3,082,502.91. Sewer fund disbursements number 4 of 2020 in the amount of $224,901.37. Community Development Block Grant Fund 4 of 2020 in the amount of $89,036.59. Capital Project Fund Disbursement number 4 of 2020 in the amount of $195,387.81. The credit card statement ending March 27, 2020 in the amount of $6,820.22.
Second.
Motion made and seconded by Mr. Siegel. Any questions? Please call the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio,
Yes.
Mr. Oliva,
Yes.
Mr. McCluskey,
Yes.
Mr. Siegel,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Quinn,
Yes.
Dr. Hart,
Yes.
Mr. Holmes,
Yes.
Mr. Wexler.
Yes. Item number 7 is a motion to adopt the first and final reading of ordinance C-13, 2020, amending ordinance 2888-2019, changing the discount, face, and a penalty payment dates for the 2020 real estate tax levy. I'm going to read the updated one that I just got from Amy a little while ago. A 2% discount shall be applied to all bills on or before May 31st, 2020. The face amount of the bills shall be due and payable from June 1st, 2020 through August 31st, 2020. On September 1st, 2020, an additional penalty of 10% shall be added to any unpaid bills. All unpaid real estate taxes as of December 31st, 2020 will be turned over to Delaware County Tax Claim Bureau for collection. Failure to receive tax notice does not relieve any taxpayer from the payment of taxes imposed by the Haverford Township, nor does failure to receive tax notice entitle property owner to discount or remission of penalty. Mr. Holmes, would you move that, or?
Yeah, Mr. President, I move we adopt,
Second. Second by Mr. Oliva.
Mr. President, it's worth noting, just for folks, they see this bill, but they don't hear us talk about this much. This 10% penalty is not something new. It's a penalty that's always, we have moved it out. So, the 2% penalty, 2% has always been there. We've just extended it several months. And the cutoff date of 12/31/2020, the language that's always applied to everybody in Haverford Township, we have just delayed the implementation.
Thank you. Any other questions? Please call the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio.
Yes.
Mr. Oliva.
Yes.
Mr. McCluskey.
Yes.
Mr. Siegel.
Yes.
Mr. Lewis.
Yes.
Mr. Quinn.
Yes.
Dr. Hart.
Yes.
Mr. Holmes.
Yes.
Mr. Wexler.
Yes. The next one is a motion to adopt the first and final reading of ordinance number P14, 2020, amending ordinance 2992-2019, changing the discount, face, and penalty payment dates for the annual sewer rental or charge to each property connected to the public sewer system. A 2% discount shall be applied to all bills on or before May 31st, 2020. The face amount of the bills shall be due and payable from June 1st, 2020 through August 31st, 2020. On September 1st, 2020, an additional penalty of 10% shall be added to any unpaid bills. All sewer rentals not paid prior to the date on which a penalty shall be added as herein provided shall be deemed to be delinquent. Failure on the part of the township to remit a bill due to administrative or federal postal delivery problems does not exonerate the property owner from paying the sewer rental and penalties imposed. It shall be the duty of the Director of Finance during or after the 12th month following the month in which bills were mailed to certify the unpaid bills to the township solicitor, who shall proceed to collect such delinquent sewer rental together with penalties and costs accrued therein, in addition to attorney's fees pursuant to Act 1, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, February 2nd, 1996, either by action at laws or by filing a lien or liens for the same in the Office of Judicial Support of the Court of Common Pleas of Delaware County, Pennsylvania. And such liens, together with the penalty and costs accrued thereon, in addition to attorney's fees, shall be filed and collected in accordance with the law.
Mr. President.
I move ordinance number P14, 2020.
Second.
Motion made and seconded by Mr. Quinn. Any questions on that? It's pretty much the same, the adjusting of the times for the, during the crisis period. Call the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio.
Yes.
Mr. Oliva.
Yes.
Mr. McCluskey.
Yes.
Mr. Siegel.
Yes.
Mr. Lewis.
Yes.
Mr. Quinn.
Yes.
Dr. Hart.
Yes.
Mr. Holmes.
Yes.
Mr. Wexler.
Yes. Next one is a motion to adopt the first and final reading of ordinance P15, 2020, amending ordinance 2883, 2019, changing the discount, face, and penalty payment dates for the annual garbage and recycling collection charge. Payment schedule: a 2% discount shall be applied to all bills on or before May 31st, 2020. The face amount of bills shall be due and payable from June 1st, 2020 through August 31st, 2020. On September 1st, 2020, an additional penalty of 10% shall be added to any unpaid bills. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
A second by Mr. D'Amelio.
Who was who moved that?
Dan
I,
Siegel.
Mr. Siegel did.
Thank you.
This- Please call the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio,
Yes.
Mr. Oliva,
Yes.
Mr. McCluskey,
Yes.
Mr. Siegel,
yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Quinn,
Yes.
Dr. Hart,
Yes.
Mr. Holmes,
Yes.
and Mr. Wexler.
Yes. Last financial one is to adopt resolution number 2178-2020, extending the payment deadline for the Township of Haverford 2019 final 2020 estimated business tax returns from April 15th, 2020 to July 15th, 2020, and extending the payment deadline for filing the first quarter 2020 local services tax returns from April 30th until June 30th, 2020.
Moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Mr. D'Amelio. Mr. Quinn moved that.
Thank you.
Any questions on that extension? Please call the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio,
Yes.
Mr. Oliva,
Yes.
Mr. McCluskey,
Yes.
Mr. Siegel,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Quinn,
Yes.
Dr. Hart,
Yes.
Mr. Holmes,
Yes.
and Mr. Wexler.
Yes. Item 8 is a motion to adopt the second reading of ordinance P 12-2020, authorizing traffic restrictions on the following highways. Stop sign on Sarah Avenue North at the intersection of Maryland Avenue, making this a three-way stop. A special parking zone in front of 100 East Park Road.
So moved.
Second.
And seconded by Mr. Oliva. Any questions on that? Please call the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio,
Yes.
Mr. Oliva,
Yes.
Mr. McCluskey,
Yes.
Mr. Siegel,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Quinn,
Yes.
Dr. Hart,
Yes.
Mr. Holmes,
Yes.
and Mr. Wexler.
Yes. Item 9 is the award of contract. Motion to accept a proposal and award not to exceed contract in the amount of $16,000 to Richard Grubb and Associates for the CLG grant funded project to update and expand the Haverford Township Historic Resources Survey.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Oliva,
Second.
second by Mr. D'Amelio. And I had asked the township manager to get us, in the RFP, it called, there was a list of 74 properties that would be evaluated. And I think we all need to see that list before we award that contract, just to see if there's any issues in each of our wards that you might want to know about.
Mr. Wexler, I received the list over the weekend. I don't
Okay.
know, a lot has happened. I'm not sure. I thought I had forwarded it to the commissioners. I'm not sure that I did.
If, I don't think I've seen it, but has anybody else seen it?
No.
Okay.
I
So if you could
apologize.
forward that out, that would be great.
I will do so.
Okay. Mr. Berman, are there any other emails have come in for the continuation of the forum?
No, I do have a question regarding the certified local government grant. I wanted to mention that we are on a time constraint with that. Notwithstanding the COVID-19 pandemic, I'm not sure if we're going to get an extension of time to complete the work that's covered by that grant. I'm a
Okay.
little concerned that if we delay the award of the contract,
Right,
we're going to have a situation where we don't get the work completed in time.
right. That's why we left it on this agenda.
Yeah, Bill, just, I know the historical people that had been, there were some delays there earlier in this year, and I think this is past due. So if we could vote on it and he can send out the list if we have issues, I'm sure we can correct that as opposed to not voting on it now.
Yeah, no, the intent is to vote. I just wanted to see the list. See if I had any properties in my ward or whatever. Any other questions? Please call the roll.
This is on the CLG award. Mr. D'Amelio?
Was it moved and seconded?
It was moved
Yes.
by Mr. Oliva
Okay.
and seconded
Okay.
by Mr. D'Amelio.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Mr. D'Amelio,
Yes.
Mr. Oliva,
Yes.
Mr. McCluskey,
Yes.
Mr. Siegel,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Quinn,
Yes.
Dr. Hart,
Yes.
Mr. Holmes,
Yes.
and Mr. Wexler.
Yes. Pretty much completes our agenda. Any,
I'm going to switch screens momentarily. Just bear with me a second. There are no additional emails to that email address.
great, thank you very much. This time I'll open the floor up for other business. Mr. D'Amelio?
Oh, I'm sorry. One of the things I want to bring up is I want to thank all of our first responders, the volunteer fire companies that are still operating, going out there, protecting our residents, the police department. Dan, your crew is, unbelievable job that they're doing. Just everybody that's out in the front lines, nurses, physicians, just doing a bang-up job for the safety of everyone. We can't thank them enough. When I watch them being thanked, the healthcare professionals, it really is moving. Let's just hope that we get through this soon. I hope so. But stay safe, everyone. Be patient.
Thank you. Leave it.
I just wanted to, as I talked to you earlier, Bill, just wanted to thank the public for staying home. I know it's very difficult. It's very difficult for me and everyone else to stay home, but people have really done a great job of staying inside and not congregating. There are a few people are still doing it, but a very large percentage of the public is heeding the warning, and we can see that curve start to flatten out a little bit, and that is very. It kind of feels good to see that what we've done is working. So I wanted to thank everyone who's staying in and just not moving around and not spreading this virus.
Thank you very much. Great comment. Mr. McCluskey.
Yeah, I just reiterate what Commissioner D'Amelio and Commissioner Leva said. And also, we extend our best wishes to anybody who is actually, or a loved one who's fighting this illness, and certainly extend our sympathies. Anyone who has lost a loved one tragically to this illness and what we're all fighting, particularly the 41 people in Delaware County who have passed away. I just want to thank also Dave Berman and everybody who's working for the township. It's difficult times right now, but we will all get through this. And I think, one of the things I would just encourage the community to do is to reach out to people. There's a lot of different experiences in staying at home right now in terms of, whether you're by yourself or you're with your family or you have little kids, old kids, you have kids who are seniors in high school. Just be kind to one another and reach out to your neighbors. We can't go out and hug people like we want to, but reach out to your neighbors and tell them that you're thinking of them.
Great advice. Thank you, Kevin. Mr. Siegel.
I echo what everyone else said. This has been for everyone an extraordinary holiday season, no matter what holidays we celebrate. But it is time to reflect upon the value of our family and our friends and the people in the community who are doing so much to try to help and save people. And I commend everyone and wish everyone the best.
Thank you. Mr. Lewis.
Yeah, I share my colleagues' comments about COVID-19. Very well said. Unrelated subject, an update on the Ardmore Avenue Bridge project. As some may know, that project was suspended about 3 or 4 weeks ago at the orders of Governor Wolf. He has since issued a release and given permission for the contractor to proceed effective as of today. It wasn't a great day to restart the project, but it's obviously it's a project that was supposed to be completed sometime in late June, early July of this year. We had a mild winter, so I don't know how much, where they stand in terms of meeting that schedule. I reached out to PennDOT. They were non-committal in terms of where they are and a new projected completion date, but I would expect that we're probably looking at a 3 or 4 week to 5 week delay in that project on that bridge, those bridges being reopened. So, but PennDOT has instructed the contractor to restart as of today, and I'm sure they're had to demonstrate to PennDOT and Pennsylvania government that they can practice appropriate social distancing and still complete this project as well. So that's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Mr. Holmes.
Mr. President, thank you. I look forward to looking back on all of this, and when we do, we will realize that the trust we placed in our township people for the last several years as we put more and more responsibility on them was not misplaced, as at this time right now. All of you, Dan, Amy, Dave, Kelly, Brian, Joe, Dave, Jim, Joe, John, you and all the people that report to you and all work with you have continued to deliver their services at a time where it's dangerous to do so and frightening to do so. And you've all stepped up and acted above and beyond the call of duty. So we all owe you, and we will all owe you a debt of gratitude, and to the healthcare workers and to the teachers and everybody trying to inject normalcy into this extremely abnormal way of living right now. We will all owe a gigantic debt of gratitude to all of you. So I just, I wanted to reiterate what my colleague said about what we're going through, and our gratitude to all of you and to all of your counterparts out there doing it in all the communities all across America. The more we can try to inject normalcy into this abnormal situation, the more peaceful it will be, the more quickly it will pass, and the sooner we'll return to the way of life we were used to. So thank you all.
I forgot to mention our paramedics too. They're doing a hell of a job during this time.
Right. Mr. Quinn.
Yes, I too would like to thank everybody. I won't name everybody, but I just want to thank you guys for all of your hard work that you all have done. And Dave and Dan, thank you for the for your thoughts on brush, because I've gotten lots of calls about that. So that was good to hear. And everybody stay safe, and I hope to see you guys all back where we're supposed to be in May. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Connor. Dr. Hart.
Yeah, I'll just echo what everybody else has said. Until about a week ago, I was still practicing in Philadelphia in an area where there has been a lot of virus. A lot of people have gotten ill, and incredible dedication to my colleagues who are still there. Just to our community, the anxiety of people working is very high, but if everybody in the community continues to do what they've been doing of the social distancing, the cutting down the trips, you make things easier. So everybody's got a role to play, and we just need to keep it up, and everybody try to stay healthy.
Thank you. I'll also echo everyone's comments. I know a lot of times we're always praising the police, but in this case, the emergency medical services in this instance are leading the charge. They're there with the ambulances. I know our police are going on every call as well, but these guys have patient contact. And I'd like to offer my condolences to Chief of Paramedics McCann's and all our medics and EMTs with the loss. Delaware County did lose an EMT or a paramedic this week. He was a full-time paramedic for Fitzgerald Mercy, running out of the Darby Firehouse. He died from complications of COVID-19 To me, it's a line of service death. He died in the service of providing medical attention. So that's a real tragedy, but what it does is it highlights the fact that a combination of units of volunteers and professional paramedics and EMTs are exposed to this in great harm. So I offer my condolences to the Bundy family, as well as to his extended family, Jim, of all the Narberth EMS emergency medical services. This is the one instance where they are literally on the front line because they have to touch every patient and get them to the hospital. And Dr. Hart points out it has hit our neighborhood. I have a neighbor, the house behind me, that's currently in the hospital. We have an employee who we're praying for now that has contracted the virus. So it's hit our family, our close family here in the township of Haverford. So I'd ask everybody to pray for our employee that's suffering now and his family, and that he makes a speedy recovery, and that all of you stay safe. And finally, I'd like to thank all of you. Not only the township staff who are doing a phenomenal job. Our residents can now go to our webpage. The COVID page has all the links to all the resources and all the CDC information, the State Department of Health, the Chester County and Delaware County Health Department. So our IT department and our township manager have done a great job in providing us with information. But I also want to thank the commissioners. I get a few calls from outside of my ward, I guess because I'm listed first, but they're praising you guys for responding to complaint calls, whether it's about brush during this, Connor, or about anything, recycling cans, getting out, doing the same thing that we're doing. We are here doing work for all the residents. So I'd ask the residents to congratulate you guys for the hard work you're still doing, as well as the township staff. It's not easy to field complaints and answer questions, but we do it. You've done it patiently, and the response from the public is that they thank you. So on behalf of them, the 5 or 6 calls I've had, which I'll extrapolate around to the people that don't call, they truly appreciate what you're doing and what our township's doing. So hopefully, as Connor said, we'll get through this and we'll be back together again soon. So thank you all very much. Dave, is there anything else that you want to point out, or?
I'm happy to field questions if there are any, but I didn't want to extend this any longer if you're satisfied.
I think we are. We're happy with your entire staff. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn if somebody would move.
So
So moved. I thank you, everyone and all. Stay safe, and thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
all right, good night.
Thank you.
Stay safe and healthy.